It was Friday night in Unadilla, Georgia, on September 4th, 1998. It was the kind of night where the week was winding down before a holiday weekend, where families were getting ready for football games, and children were still outside before dark, because nothing felt dangerous yet. 8-year-old Shyikmia Pate.
She disappeared. A child with dreams, a child with challenges, a child was deeply loved. And that matters, because children who are seen and protected don't simply vanish without someone somewhere holding a piece of the truth. Now, by early September 1998, summer was slipping away in Unadilla. School was back in session. Routines had returned, and 8-year-old Shyikmia was settling into the familiar rhythm of days that followed a pattern. Home, school, family. The freedom of summer had narrowed, but life felt steady. It felt safe. September 4th, 1998, it was the start of Labor Day weekend. And in Unadilla, that Friday carried a familiar kind of excitement. School let out early that afternoon, and by evening, attention had shifted to the high school football game in nearby Vienna. For the Pate family, it was something to look forward to. Especially for Shyikmia. Her older sister, Luanda, was 17. She was a member of the school's ROTC program and would bring out the flags before the game. Their mom, Veronica, wasn't home that afternoon, and so the plan was simple. She would take Shyikmia with her. Shyikmia was excited, eager to go where her big sister was going to be included in something that felt kind of grown up and important. The Swanda decided to rest for a little while that afternoon before she got herself ready. And while she did, Shyikmia did what she often did. She went outside to play. This wasn't unusual. The neighborhood was the kind of place where kids moved freely between houses and front porches, where people recognized each other and watched out for each other. And that day, Shyikmia had on a bright green Atlanta Braves jersey, something her family would later remember clearly. Now, playing nearby as she waited around, 6 a.m., Luanda left the house to go put gas in the car, and as she drove, she noticed Shyikmia sitting on a neighbor's porch. It was a normal sight. Nothing about it raised concerns, and so Luanda continued on, assuming she'd pick her sister up when it was time to leave for the game. But when she returned to the porch where her sister was after getting gas, Shyikmia was gone. The neighbors who lived there said that she had left and walked up the street. At first, it didn't feel alarming, and Luanda drove slowly up and down the street, scanning for her sister, thinking that she might have wandered to a different friend's house. But there was still time before the game, and nothing suggested anything was wrong. When she couldn't find her, she called their mother, Veronica, who still wasn't home yet. But the assumption, the hope, was that Shyikmia was nearby and would turn up soon. And so Veronica told Swanda to go ahead and go to the game, figuring that Shyikmia was at a friend's house, and she told her that she would get her once she got home. But Veronica arrived home later that evening around 7:45 p.m., and by that time the game was already underway. And when Shyikmia was playing outside near her home, she wasn't far away. She was close enough that no one thought twice about letting her be there. But sometime around 7, Shyikmia was still outside, and then she wasn't. There was no reported scream, no confirmed witness who saw her leave, no single moment that still wasn't there. She began making phone calls, checking around with neighbors, rechasing the same small stretch of ground where her daughter had been just hours earlier. And at first, she tried to remain calm. This was a child who played outside, a child known in the neighborhood, a child who didn't usually go far. But as the night wore on and Luanda returned home from the game with no sign of her little sister, that calm began to crack. The realization set in slowly, then all at once. Shyikmia hadn't gone to a friend's house. She hadn't wandered off and come back. She hadn't been missed by accident. Something was wrong. Somewhere between a neighbor's porch and a quiet street she knew well, 8-year-old Shyikmia had disappeared. Marked the shift from ordinary to terrifying. Just a small, quiet window of time that closed without anyone noticing. By the end of the night, Shyikmia hadn't come home. The next morning, an 8-year-old girl had vanished from a neighborhood that never believed something like this could happen there. What remains is a disappearance with no clear beginning, and a question that has haunted this town for decades. How does a child disappear from just steps away, without a trace, and without someone seeing something?
Shyikmia Pate was born on October 29, 1989, and from the beginning, she was the center of her family's world. Raised in Unadilla, Georgia, she grew up as the youngest of 4, surrounded by older siblings who doted on her and a mother who described their family as close, the kind of closeness built through time.
Care and shared responsibility. People called her Shy, a name that followed her everywhere. At school, she wasn't just another child in a classroom. She was the kind of student's teacher was remembered because she formed real connections with them. School was a place that she loved.
A place where she felt comfortable and encouraged, but she also had challenges from a very young age. Shyikmia spent a lot of time in hospitals. Chronic asthma and kidney disease meant regular visits, long stays, and a childhood shaped by medical routines most kids never have to think about. There were stretches when the hospital felt almost as familiar as home. But those experiences also shaped the way she saw the world. Shyikmia talked about wanting to become a pediatrician someday, not in abstract terms, but because she understood what it meant to be a sick child and wanted to care for others like her. When she was home, she was never alone. Her siblings looked out for her. Her family made sure she was protected, supported, and surrounded by love. Shyikmia was a child who was cared for intentionally, a little girl whose presence mattered in every room that she walked into. That's who she was before.